Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, December the 2nd, 2020, and today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 79, Micah 5, 1 through 5, and then Luke 21, 34 through 38. And I'm going to take a look at Micah today, and I'm going to talk about the idea of small but mighty, among other things. But let's talk about this passage from Micah. It starts off with this idea of basically their enemy saying, we've got you surrounded. Things are pretty bad for the children of Israel, and they're surrounded by their enemies, and their enemies can pretty much do what they please, right? That's what it says here in the first verse. It says they strike the king, the ruler of Israel, upon the cheek with a rod, right? So, if you can do that to the ruler of a people, if you can just at will just walk up and tap them on the side of the face with a stick, things are bad, right? You're not in control. You're not in control of your own borders. You're not in control of your own territory. You're not really in power. You have a ruler, but you got a king, but they're powerless. They may talk a big deal, and they may spout and pontificate, and they act like they really are in control and they're this big and powerful, but really they're just impotent. And that's the problem here. So things are looking pretty bad. But there's hope on the horizon, and that's what Micah is talking about. In the face of all this turmoil, a hero will arise from the most unlikely of places. And I really wish I had the good movie phone voice, Coming Attractions voice. A hero will arise. But he does. He arises from the most unlikely of places. Bethlehem. Bethlehem. They're small, but they're mighty. This little tiny town. Oh, little town of Bethlehem. So Bethlehem, small but mighty, is going to be the birthplace of this new ruler for Israel, one whose origins, we're told by Micah, are shrouded in the deep ancient past. That's how long God's been planning this. The origins of this king are from ancient of days, he says. So, great. Things are bad. They've got this kind of impotent king that, the other rulers, the other nations are just having their way with. But this new hope is going to arise. This new leader, this new ruler is going to arise from the little town of Bethlehem, smallest of all the tribes and clans of Judah. So great. We're going to get this new king. He's going to be a great warrior king. But that's not what Micah goes on to talk about. It's kind of instead of a warrior king, he gets a warrior shepherd. So not a warrior king, but a king shepherd. Does that make sense? And we're told by Micah he's going to be one who brings peace to his flock and one who stands strong in the Lord. He doesn't stand strong and makes claims about his own strength and his own power and his own brilliance and just tries to stand on his own. No, this shepherd will stand in the midst of all this, in the midst of his flock, but he does so in the strength of the Lord. So anybody who comes against him isn't just coming against him, they're coming against God. So one who stands in the Lord, calmly feeding his flock. It's this image of peace. It's not total confusion all the time, total pandemonium all the time, total, trying to maintain the borders and trying to keep the bad guys out. It's, you can take time to care for your flock and feed them because you stand in the strength of the Lord. Because of that, he can bring calm to everyone. This is the king we're waiting for here in Advent, and this is the king that Jesus came to be. And this is the language Jesus uses about himself. There's a guy named N.T. Wright. He's a really good Bible scholar. You should probably get some of his books. But he has this quote in one of his books called Jesus, and I can't remember the title of it. Anyway, it's a big book. Anyway, but he says this about how Jesus spoke about himself using this shepherd language. He says he invoked the image of the shepherd, a royal symbol, of course, with roots deep in the ancient Israelite traditions of monarchy, but one which also spoke of Yahweh himself as the shepherd of his people, taking over from the false shepherds who had been feeding themselves instead of the sheep. And in several of the relevant passages to rely thereby bringing about the homecoming, the moment of covenant renewal, the true homecoming, the moment of covenant renewal. And so, I think a lot of us are looking for all the wrong rulers, right? We're looking, we feel weak ourselves, and we see weakness all around us, and so we look for these strong rulers, like the strong man who by the strength of his own arm is going to jerk everybody up and have their own way with them. Well, this morning I was reading from Judges, and we had the people of Israel had people like that. Samson was the strong man who could jerk people up by their arms and do what he, grab the jawbone of an ass, or beat a lion to death and do what he wanted. Problem was, he always thought he did it of his own strength. He was that conceited. The king that we want, the ruler that we want, the shepherd that we need, the one that we're promised, the one that Jesus is coming to provide, is the kind that does everything knowingly in the strength of Yahweh, in the strength of the Lord. So, enjoy the season of Advent and look for the shepherd to come. That's the DBR for today. Have a good day. Get out there and enjoy the cool weather, and we'll see you tomorrow. Boop.